Well, hello everybody and welcome to Jeff's Baking Blog. Today I'm going to make some Copycat Olive Garden breadsticks. Lovely soft breadsticks which are perfect for dipping into soups or sauces or pastas, whatever you want to do basically. And these are very popular by all accounts. I've never tried the original Olive Garden ones. But my sister in Canada has and said they're very good. She's also made this particular recipe, which she said worked out very well indeed. And I'm basing my recipe on one I saw on the Cookie Rookie website. I'm adapting it slightly for my purposes using my stand mixer, but that recipe seems to work quite well. But there are lots of different alternative copycat versions of the Olive Garden breadsticks that you could also try if you wanted to. So it's not a difficult recipe, but it takes time because it's a yeasted dough, so we have to let the dough rise before we can cut it and shape it basically. So I'll go on to the ingredients. So I have 420 grams, which is 3 cups minus 3 tablespoons of bread flour, and that's based on scooping packed flour into a 250 milliliter cup. I may not need all of that flour, but I'll explain that as we proceed. I have 227 milliliters, 1 cup minus 2.5 teaspoons of lukewarm water, and I want that water at about 41 to 42 degrees Celsius. And mine's just at 40, which is fine. That's lukewarm. So then I have 30 milliliters, 2 tablespoons of milk, 25 grams, 2 tablespoons of caster sugar, 25 grams, 2 tablespoons of olive oil, 4 grams, 1¼ teaspoons of instant yeast, 2 grams, ½ teaspoon of garlic powder, 4 grams, 2/3 teaspoon of salt. And those are the ingredients for the breadsticks. And then to go on to the top, I have 28 grams, 2 tablespoons of unsalted butter, 2 grams of garlic powder, which is ½ teaspoon, and 3 grams, about ½ teaspoon of salt. And I'm going to mix the salt and the garlic powder and sprinkle that on the top once I've brushed the breadsticks with butter once they've baked. But we don't need those for the time being. So what we need to do is to go on to make our dough. And to make the dough, I'm going to put my sugar into the bowl of my stand mixer, along with my yeast and my garlic powder. Now, the garlic powder in the dough is optional. I should have mentioned that, but I like the flavour of garlic, so I'm using it. And then I'm going to add in my water and my milk and my olive oil. I'm just going to give those a quick mix together. And that's good enough. And so then I'm going to add my flour. Now, what I'm actually doing is I've taken out about 80 grams of my flour, and I'm holding that back, and I'll put the other 360 grams into the bowl, and I'm going to mix that until it becomes a shaggy dough, and then I'll gradually add the remaining flour, and I may not need to add all of it, until it comes together into a nice dough which I can then knead. So that's a shaggy dough. So then I'm going to add in a good tablespoon of the flour and mix it and do the same until, as I said, it comes together into a nice dough. So that's come together quite nicely. So I'm now going, and I haven't used all of my flour. I've got probably 10 grams or so remaining. And I'm going to now knead this for 8 to 10 minutes until it's nice and smooth and very elastic. And with that dough kneaded like that, I'm actually going to add my salt in and carry on kneading. So that's kneaded now, and I've kneaded that for a good 10 minutes, and that's actually quite stretchy and it's quite smooth. So I'm going to proof that now. And with my dough on the counter, I'm just going to take a little bit of that flour that I had left, put that on the counter, and I'm just going to turn that dough over on itself to form a nice tight ball, like that. And I'm going to put the slightest little squirt of oil on it and rub that over, and then I'm going to put that back into my bowl and cover it to proof for until it's doubled in size. You can put your dough into a lightly greased bowl and cover it like I've covered mine, and we need to leave it to proof until it doubles in size, which in a kitchen which is as cool as mine is today is going to take between 60 minutes and 120 minutes, an hour to 2 hours. But I'll come back once it has doubled in size and go on to the next step, which is to divide the dough into 12 pieces, form them into 9-inch ropes and leave them to rise again. So my dough has been rising for 2 hours now, and it has doubled in size. But before I go on to the next step, I just want to mention the salt again. I put my salt in once the dough had formed, which was actually later than I had intended. I really ought to have put the salt in when I added the flour. So I thought I would mention that now, because in the written recipe I will say to add the salt in when the flour goes into the wet ingredients. So with that said, I'll show you the dough has doubled in size and we'll divide it up. So there's my dough, and I'm going to tip that out and divide it into 12 equal pieces. So my dough weighs just about 700 grams, so I'm going to divide it into 12 pieces of about 58 grams each. But in actual fact, I'm only going to make 6 at the moment, and I'm going to chill the remaining dough and make the other 6 tomorrow, but I'll show you the entire process. So I have half the dough here, and I'm going to divide that into my 6 pieces. And with 6 pieces divided up, as I mentioned, I'm going to form those into a ball to start with. That's just to get them combined. And then I'm going to flatten that and roll that into a rope, which is about 9 inches, 23 centimetres in length. And as the dough starts to spring back, I'm going to move on to another one. And with each one roughly 23 centimetres, 9 inches, I'm going to put them onto a baking tray. And I'm going to use 2 baking trays and put 3 on each. And as I said, I'm only doing 6 today, and I'll do the others tomorrow. And with 6 rolled out like that, I'm going to cover those and I'm going to leave them to rest for another 45 minutes to an hour until they rise up and become quite puffy. And then at that stage I will have my oven preheated to 220 degrees Celsius, 200 Celsius with a fan, 425 Fahrenheit, ready to bake. So I'll come back after an hour or so and show you what they look like before I put them into the oven. It's been an hour now and my oven is preheated and my ropes of dough have puffed up a little bit, and I think they're probably proofed just enough. So I'm going to put those into the oven and I'm going to bake them for 11 to 13 minutes until they rise up in the oven and they've browned a little bit on the top. Then I'll take them out of the oven, and while they're hot I'll come back and wipe some butter over them and sprinkle them with some salt and garlic. So I baked my breadsticks for 12 minutes and they coloured nicely on the top like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my butter and I'm simply going to rub the butter over the surface like that on each one. Just to get them coated with the butter. And that's good. And I've mixed my salt in with my garlic powder there. So I'm simply going to take some of that and sprinkle it on the top. And this is enough to do all 12, so I'm not going to use all of it on these 6 here. If you don't have garlic powder, you could use garlic granules. They're just a little bit firmer on the bite, really. And I'm going to leave those now just to let them cool down. And once they've cooled down, I'll come back and we'll have a taste. Well, I've let the breadsticks cool down just a little bit. Ideally, I should wait for them to cool completely, but I can't wait. I've already had a little taste. So this is what they look like at the moment, and I've bitten into this one here. So it's nicely baked inside and it's lovely and soft, as you can see. So I'll have a taste of this one. Does taste very, very good. That slight saltiness on the outside as well as the garlic, and I put garlic powder into the dough as well, so that increases the garlic flavour. These are going to be perfect for dipping into any type of dip, a marinara sauce or something like that, or to eat with your pasta or your soup, whatever you want basically. So this is actually quite a simple recipe. It makes 12, I've only made 6, but I can make another 6 tomorrow and have those fresh tomorrow as well. So that's going to be it for this recipe. I hope you've enjoyed it, and if you have, please give me the thumbs up below and click to subscribe to my YouTube channel. In the top right hand corner of the screen there'll be an eye that you can click on, and that will take you to a link for the recipe, and I'll put a link below the video as well, and I'll be back with another recipe in the very near future. So until then, happy baking.